The vast majority of private practices have enough competition that getting new patients is not guaranteed. You have to convince them to choose you, and that takes marketing and sales. My guest today coaches private practice owners on how to do both, and he's going to try very hard to convince you that you need to do it as well. I'm Carl White, principal at Market Advisory Group, which is a healthcare marketing agency, and I'm also the host of PracticeCare. The mission for both is the same, and that's to help private practice owners stay private. Not only is that what they usually want, but care is better when the provider owns the practice because that's when they're going to have the most freedom to make the decisions for their patients that they think are best. It's just different when somebody else owns the practice. Eventually, that owner's agenda starts to creep in, and let's just keep it easier, keep them out of the way, keep it private. My guest today is Daniel Tribby. Daniel is a healthcare provider, effective business growth strategist, award-winning author, top keynote speaker with a vision to help healthcare entrepreneurs build a practice that serves its patients and sustain profitably for the long term. That is a really short bio, and you know where my first question is going to be. But for now, Daniel, thank you for coming on Practice Care and shining a light on this topic.
Sure. No, thanks for having me, Carl. I think that the bio, if you extend those out for a million words and people are like, okay, we get it. This guy knows something. Talk to us about what we want to know.
Yeah, and I asked for it to be short, and those who have listened to even a few episodes know where I'm going to begin, which is, boy, that bio was short. Will you tell
All
us
right.
a bit more about you?
Absolutely.
How you got into this? It's always wherever you want to take it. Just help us get to know you a bit better.
Yeah, sure. So my background's in sports medicine. I was a rehab guy for a long time. I worked for, large corporate structured physical therapy plus doctor type offices,
Mhm.
inter office referrals, that whole system. I got a little tired of the quantity over quality situation, right? It seems like no matter how productive we were or how great our customer service scores were, there was always this feeling of, well, you did really good. How much more can you handle? It just felt so transactional, right?
Mhm.
Where healthcare is supposed to be transformational, right? We're supposed to
Okay.
be able to go to these offices and feel like this is how I am, help me, or this is how I am, this is how I want to be, right? Or I'm just
Mhm.
here because I want you to prevent me from becoming that,
Right.
right? So I got so frustrated with that, and it seemed like no matter what I looked for, how I attempted to create a different situation, I wasn't able to. And so I said, you know what, you guys can kick rocks barefooted. I'm out, and I went into medical sales for a little while.
Mhm.
Had a lot of success there.
What'd you
Eventually,
sell?
we did orthobiologics and plates and screws. So
Yeah.
the hardware, and then orthobiologics, for those who may not be aware, for us is things like bone grafting materials, stem cell products, those types of things.
Hmm.
So did that, and eventually I ended up opening my own private LLC to do that myself. Contract with some of these distributors that I love their products, do the thing. That was the first business that I ever started. That was 10 years ago,
Wow.
and had a lot of success with that, and felt so good about it. I swore I would never ever go back to healthcare. I'm never going to provide services again. And then, as we all know, never say never.
Yeah.
God always has a different plan.
Hmm.
Um, and I had an opportunity based upon my background in physical rehabilitation as well as in the stem cell therapy regenerative medicine world to partner up with another physician and open up a regenerative medicine practice.
Okay.
So we did bone, muscle, joint, spine, all stem cell therapy.
Wow.
So with an actual physician, this was not a chiropractor's office offering something they shouldn't have been offering. We weren't doing
Hmm.
injections in a brown van out back. Like, this was a physician that was
Not a
trained.
branded van or anything.
No, definitely not a spray paint only. That's all
Right.
quality service there.
Right.
Yeah, so we started this. Her specialty was in non-surgical orthopedics and spine. And so she provided the service. I did the majority of the business growth aspects. So all
Hmm.
of the things that can be considered operations or governing the marketing, doing all those things. And we did that for 6 years, and we just sold it this past September for a very
Wow.
nice multiple, and a very successful exit. So I can
Hmm.
say I got to live the actual entrepreneur's dream, from building it, and growing it, and
Yeah.
this. But I'll tell you, Carl, like in the process of that and learning those things about how to build this business model, I started getting a lot of questions from other healthcare providers, doctors,
Hmm.
physical therapists, anybody in that world that was like, how are you guys doing this, and how are you doing it so effectively? And I said, I just started talking about marketing and branding and messaging and all these different things. And people are looking at me like I have six heads.
Yeah.
And I realized at that moment that the majority of us who are healthcare providers don't have a clue about how to build a business around our specialty. We're really good at our specialty. We worked
Hmm.
our butts off in school to be able to offer whatever treatment plan
Hmm.
um, that we can offer to our patients, but
Hmm.
we're not really good at building a business around that.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, how can I help more people learn? So I just started giving away advice, and then I wrote a book for said advice and
Hmm.
started speaking on stages about that advice, and that led me to working privately with other clients throughout the years. And so that's now what I'm exclusively doing full time, is just working with owners of private healthcare systems that don't want to sell out to hospitals, are sick and tired of the stupidity that insurance companies are putting them through, and they want to stand out and shine. They want to be business owners. They got into medicine to be able to help people, and they want to learn how to build a business around doing exactly that.
Yeah. And so a side question before we get into it, why did you sell the practice? Why not just continue it or and just branch
Yeah,
out and, you know?
I think there's a point that you get to as a business owner where like your vision carried you to a point.
Okay.
So the vision was to create this thing to go from X to Y
Hmm.
in a certain amount of time. And you accomplish it, and then you say, okay, well, we're here. What do we do now? And can we create a new vision to expand it and go beyond it? Or do we feel like we're done with it? At
Mm.
a certain point, you just say, okay, do we want to keep going or are we done? And myself and the physician that we co-owned the business, we decided that we built it. We did what we said we were going to do. And
Hmm.
now it's time to bring somebody else in who may be able to see the vision from a different standpoint and
Yeah.
take it to different places. They maintain the name of the business, they maintain the staff, they did everything. They just came in, they had a different tweak on the vision, and they're taking off with their vision of it. And I think it's important when people to know that when you're a business owner. Right? When you get to a certain point where you're like, hey, we've realized the vision. Do we want to just keep it going, or do we want to let somebody else take it and run with it and see how
Yeah.
crazy they can make it? So
Got
that's
it.
what.
Got it. And in part, the nature of the practice, I'm going to come back to this, already gives me some clues on why you became really good at marketing and sales. So I'll come back to that. But let's get into the topic generally, marketing and sales and their importance to your practice. I just want to start by a couple of simple definition of terms to make sure that we're all talking and hearing it the same way. When you use the term marketing and you use the term sales, what do
Mhm.
you mean?
Yeah, so marketing for me is the way that I attract people. It's the way that I capture attention or interest to get people to desire what I have and
Hmm.
to pick up the phone or click the call now or schedule here or whatever. This is what gets them to make the call or take the action to potentially do business with me.
Okay. And then for sales, what do you mean? Because sales in a medical or a healthcare context, it's just the the reactions are that's icky. We don't do that. That's
Yeah.
bad. So what do you mean?
So for sales, I mean, obviously you're collecting money. That's the actual transaction, right? But there's a process to it, right? Um, if the marketing has done a really good job of piquing everyone's interest and desire, then
Hmm.
the sales process comes really, really simple.
Hmm.
So you're just servicing the patient further. If you've done a
Hmm.
really good job in your marketing presentation, 70% of the buying decision is already made before they can pick up the phone.
Yeah.
So the sales part to me is answering the questions that these people care about, right?
Hmm.
Because we market to a certain population, but we don't. When people call, they might be part of that population, but they may have a very specific problem within that population.
Hmm.
You have to be equipped to service them with the answers that they need for them to be able to say, yes,
Yeah.
here's some money, let's do it.
Yeah. And you actually you hit on something I wanted to come back to marketing for a second. When you think of marketing, do you think of it as like the big bullhorn and the promotion, or do you also think of it as what comes before that? So what I mean by that is your practice attacked a common problem in a different way, right?
Mhm.
So when you say I have back pain, there's a lot of places you can go, and you came along and said, well, we're a new way, we're a different way,
Right.
and and I think a lot of people think of marketing as promotion and only promotion, but it's not. Before you get to promoting something, just like I said in the opening, you have to convince them to choose you. Why are you different? Why are you valuable?
Right.
This is like my soapbox. Do you count that as part of marketing?
Yeah,
To
I
me,
count.
it's part of it.
Yeah, I do. I think that's the brand message, right? Or the brand promise. And then the
Mhm.
marketing is the vehicle you use to deliver that to capture the attention, right?
Right.
So if I'm going to, and this I see a lot, especially in healthcare. if I am a GI doctor, then I want to help everyone and anyone that has gut and butt issues. Like that's what I
Right.
want to do,
Yeah.
right? So, but you don't want to help anyone and everyone. You want to help a very specific person who feels
Hmm.
a very specific way, who has a very specific idea of what they want or don't want, and then you have to
Hmm.
speak to them. And
Hmm.
then deeper than that, you have to understand geographically, where are they? Financially, where are they?
Hmm.
Age-wise, where are they? Are they
Yeah.
men, women? Like, who are you appealing to? There's so many nuances for sure in crafting that message. I believe in narrow and deep when it comes to marketing messaging
Hmm.
versus wide and shallow.
Yeah. Yeah. And so as you're crafting your practice or some sort of service in it, there's got to be something different about you. There just has to be. You think of it, the classic example is dentists, general dentists. And in the building in which my dentist resides, there's three others. And I mean, why do I choose you? Why do I stay with you? Um,
I love that you brought that up. I'll tell you a
you
quick
know,
story. My son, I just scheduled an appointment for him this a few weeks back.
okay.
Brand new office, right around the corner from my home.
Hmm.
And I just walked in one day because it's part of kind of like a little strip mall. So we walk over and there's an ice cream place there and acai bowls and just little places that you can
Ice
go to.
cream and dentistry. That's
There you go,
kind of
beautiful,
kind of
right?
funny. Yeah.
It's like the 350-pound cardiologist, right?
Who smokes?
Right. So we're going past and I said, you know what, you need to get a teeth cleaning. Let's pop in here really quick. Office is beautifully constructed.
Hmm.
Everything's immaculate, very concierge type of service space. Um, But that's not what captured me. What
Hmm.
really captured me was when they sent me the text message with the link to fill out the paperwork online.
Hmm.
When I got to the end of all of the name, background, insurance information, they had two questions.
Hmm.
First one was, when you show up at our practice, um, what can we offer you? And they had check boxes: flat water, sparkling water, whiskey, wine. I'm like, well,
I'm
my
listening.
12-year-old's not going to
Yeah.
have whiskey or wine, but I'm going to by
Yeah.
God, right? And then the second question was, during your treatment, would you like, which of these would you prefer? TV, music, your own music, aromatherapy, right? So you don't, in the world of click this link and fill out your paperwork, you just
Hmm.
expect to do exactly what they told you to do. But you don't expect is at the end of the paperwork for them to put some personal touches to say, how can we make your experience better? And
Hmm.
actually give you check boxes to do that.
Hmm.
That makes you stand out so
Hmm.
much,
And it
right?
sounds gimmicky, but think about how much competition you've got,
Right.
you
And
know?
so my son was getting his teeth cleaned, watching movies while I'm drinking bourbon in the lobby waiting.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Take your time,
Right.
doc. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. I'm here all day. Don't worry about me. Right.
Yeah.
So, right. So you look at those things and you say, man, this really makes people stand out. Now, what drew me to walk in there was just basically proximity. It was right here.
Yeah.
And so I walk in the office is beautiful. If I walked in the office was disorganized, I probably would have just canceled the appointment or never made it.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's lots of nuances that happen that make people feel like this is a transformational experience. These people don't want to just check me off the list.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And we're not going to get into it now, but there's sort of hierarchies of the ways in which you can differentiate. You've got to be clinically good. Maybe you're clinically better. If you feel that that's the case, you've got to make your case.
Mhm.
If you feel like you're clinically similar or the market forces are such that, my God, it's like an ocean of competition within 3 miles, what else am I going to do? It's the rest of the experience.
Mhm.
It's everything from the phone call to an example like you gave or whatever it is. Um, you know, how are you going to do it? Because otherwise, why are we going to choose you? Your hours are better, you take more insurance, the commodity type things that are really, easy to copy,
Mhm.
frankly.
Yeah.
And, if you're in a growing market, fine, but otherwise, yeah, you're not really different. So, we've just sort of hit a big part of it, but just to ask the question, from your experience and the clients you work with, why are marketing and sales so important? I mean, and I'll tell you, I just working with a client now where I don't think they get it. And it's like still, but
Yeah.
maybe you'll come up with new ways for me to say it to other people, but why are they so important?
Yeah. So before we started this, you and I were catching up a little bit, and I was telling you about a event that I was at over this weekend,
Mhm.
this past weekend, and there was an educational part for a new procedure. right? So you had all these doctors in one room. They were learning about this new procedure. They were hand-selected doctors to be able to offer this procedure that's been trademarked by a particular physician who invented it,
Okay.
right? I have the privilege of being in this room.
Mhm.
99.9% of the questions that were asked that are relative to this procedure, which is a cash paying procedure, this is not insurance based.
Okay.
99.9% of the questions that were asked were about the procedure itself, efficacy, technique, all of that. Less than a tenth of the questions were about how to market it or
Mm.
sell it or how to train the people who would answer the phones. And I look at that and I think to myself, okay, this is a cash pay procedure. It's not a couple $100.
Hmm.
The average across the board for this is $9,500. Or sorry, excuse me, that's the bottom line. The average is 14,000. The bottom line that they tell you to charge is 9,500. The average is 14 grand.
Did they have like a sort of a go-to-market playbook or anything? Like, look, for those of
So
you
they
who
have,
bring this in,
yes, they do that. They have that.
okay.
And also, I'm still amazed that more people are not asking questions about it.
Yeah, no, you're right. Was the playbook any good? I mean, sometimes they're not that good.
I didn't see the playbook. I
Okay.
saw I talked to the marketing
Got it.
individuals that are part of the team that delivers that. They schedule a call with you afterwards and go through it and all those things. But you know that there's not enough education going on in that. It's just
Hmm.
here's some materials that you can use, right?
Yeah.
Here are the logos you can put up on your
Oh,
website, right? They're
God.
not teaching marketing.
Yeah.
They're giving you access to their materials,
Yeah.
but you still have to have a marketing person for your practice to be able to get that out,
Hmm.
especially if you're insurance dominant. If you are taking insurance patients and you now think that you're going to be able to talk to those same people about a $15,000, $14,000 procedure,
Yeah.
you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
You have to specifically learn how to address the person who's going to spend 15 grand on that type of problem. And
Yeah.
if you don't dissect them in entirety and deliver a message that resonates with them, you just took a course that you got hand selected to pay for to be part of this whole thing, and you're not gonna make any money from it. And
Zip.
you're gonna blame them. You're gonna say it's
Yeah.
their fault, it's a waste of time. It's
Yeah.
not. It's you, because you're not taking the time to learn business wise how to implement it totally into your practice.
Yeah.
There's more than just the technique. You have to learn how to offer it.
Yeah. And mistake number one you're going to make is you're going to say, let me just find people with enough money. You know what? 9 out of every 10 people with enough money are still going to resist this thing anyway. And so that's what you got to get through. And I remember when I was one of the corporations I worked at, we had this first of the world product, and those who bought into it, and there were enough, but it still took months because people don't flip on a dime. They just don't. And yeah, it takes a lot of time. So that's why, right? I mean, is that why marketing and sales are so important? Because nothing sells itself. I mean, is it
Right.
is it that simple?
Yeah, if you build it, they will not come. Right.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
a
they've got 10 choices to go to, you know?
exactly. You're in a
Yeah.
world where, what, 20 years ago, there was, I think the touch points you had to have before you made a decision was seven.
Yeah.
Now it's nearly 30
Yeah.
because there's so many commercials between email ads, commercials on TV. Like there's
Yeah.
so much media that's stuffed in our face all the time. And
Yeah.
so if I'm not saying something that doesn't sound different than anybody else, then I get grouped into everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a tall order. It's true. So what are some of the good versus bad kind of marketing practices you see, like just behaviors and things, sales practices you see? And I'm curious,
Yeah.
if you can, if it's relevant, just to kind of bring it back to your former practice, you guys had a different way of doing things, which is exciting. It's like we are different and valuable because, but we're
Right.
different, and so it takes people a while to get used to it. I'm
Yeah.
curious if any of that kind of overlapped.
It does. I think that the majority of healthcare marketing is bad marketing because it focuses on three areas. Here are my procedures,
Hmm.
right? This is what I offer. Here are my credentials to justify what I offer.
Hmm.
And here's the technology I use. And I hate to break it to you, if everybody's got the best tech and the most up-to-date this, and I graduated from this school, then you're not different. You all
Yeah.
sound the same,
Yeah.
right? So that's the bad side of it. For me, being in orthopedics world, that's what we saw all the time, right?
Hmm.
Oh, we have the most up-to-date surgery. We have this doctor from
We're
this place who's a
compassionate. We're
specialist.
customer service is excellent. It's yes,
Same
you're
junk.
right.
You're saying same thing.
Yeah.
And we all know that if you're going to an orthopedist, you have three options: oral medications, steroid injections, surgery. Those are the three things.
Okay.
Unless they're going to refer you out to physical therapy, that's what's going to happen. They're all going to do those three things.
Mm-hmm.
So, how is it that I'm going to run an orthopedic practice that doesn't do two out of the three of those? We don't over prescribe pain meds, and we
Mm-hmm.
don't do surgery. We do the steroid injections or the epidural injections, but we do those on a referral basis. So if I have a doctor that wants to send me their spine patient for an injection, then we'll do those. But
Mm-hmm.
that's not our bread and butter. We don't do two of the other things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I have to switch my messaging. My messaging, which is good messaging, has to be: here's the patient that I treat,
Mm-hmm.
here's the problem that I solve,
Mm-hmm.
and here's the step-by-step process you can take to get that.
Mm-hmm.
Or here's what you can expect when you do business with us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm sounding very different than everybody else. And we don't, like I said, we don't cut and we don't do pain meds.
Mm-hmm.
So we do PRP injections, we do bone marrow aspirate injections, and then towards the end of it, we were doing fat stem cell based injections also.
Okay.
Right. So this is a very different way of approaching spine pain or joint pain.
Mm-hmm.
People
So
who
like
don't,
the construct of the practice was different than the typical practice. So
right.
that was your difference.
Mhm.
Right. So now your challenge is at that point, we're different. We know it. We just have to make it clear why we're different and why that's beneficial.
Right. We have to talk about why you've experienced injection after injection or surgery after surgery or therapy after therapy and it's not working.
Right. Right. So what do you say to if you have clients that are like, I'll make it up, they're physical therapists. I'm just thinking of an example where there's just like an ocean of competition.
Mhm.
And how do you help them? The challenge is the same. The need is the same. In an ocean of competition, you still have to sound different.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you're going to get ignored. How do you work with them, when there's so much? And the competition is just on paper your practice was different because of the way you constructed it. How do you work with them when they're like,
Yeah.
really similar?
Yeah, oddly enough, I don't think competition actually exists. I think it exists only in your own mind, right? You look around and say, who else is here that we're competing with,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if you're speaking the proper message directly to the patient that you're desiring to treat, there isn't a competition. I get so annoyed when people say, oh, we're a small orthopedic practice, we're competing with all these hospitals. No, you don't, because the people that want to go to a hospital, you don't want to serve them. You want to go after the people who don't want to go to a hospital for treatment. You're not
Mm-hmm.
even the same, and you're not going to be able to compete because that's a multi-million-dollar marketing budget.
Yeah.
So you're not speaking the same language. You don't have to.
What about like
So
the dental practice we go to that I mentioned? There's three other practices in the same building, and
yeah.
they're all general dentists. How would you? Because
So
when they look at you and say, "But we're all the same,"
who do they treat? Is one
families,
is one elderly?
uh,
They have specialties that are
families
different.
and adults. Yeah, this is it, right? This is it. Do you have a specialty that's different? Do you have
Do you have
maybe
a
you just sort
way
of,
of doing things,
yeah.
right? You're not selling dentistry, right? We're not selling clean teeth. What are we actually selling,
Mm-hmm.
right? Bright smiles,
You have
confidence, and
outcomes that are
action.
better for some reason, and
Yeah,
yeah. And by the way,
it's language.
it takes some time to bring to the surface this kind of difference. So you got to be patient, right? I mean, that's been my experience. It's like, well, why are we different? I don't know. I'm asking you. Like, you're the
Yeah.
one who've been doing this for 15 years.
Mhm.
So if you don't know it, and why would I know it yet? It's going to take some time to go dig and find it.
Yeah, and I think the question has to be asked is like, who do you actually want to work with?
Mhm.
This is the
You know what I get? People with
yeah,
money.
yeah.
Like, well,
Great. Why do they want to work with you? I don't know,
yeah,
because we have the top technology. Oh,
my credentials are amazing. So is everybody else's.
yeah. I
We have a lot
graduated
of
from Harvard.
reviews. So
Who
does
cares?
everybody else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
who cares?
Yeah.
Um, I start with like who is the person, like, and let's break them down.
Mhm.
Like, not just where they live and how much money they make and if they're married. That stuff's important, but how do they think? How do they feel?
Mhm.
Right? What do they want from their experience? And when you can narrow that all the way down to the finest grain of sandpaper available, you now have a message you can put out there that actually rubs people, right?
Mhm.
That people go, "Oh, this is for me,"
Mhm.
right? And you put that message in places where they hang out. So if I'm an insurance-free practice
Hmm.
that wants to go after, let's call them $250,000 net income households, right? Those guys probably hang out at country clubs, right?
Hmm.
Or tennis clubs, or they
Hmm.
probably shop at Whole Foods. They might have a personal trainer. They're not hanging out waiting for you to attract them on Instagram or
Hmm.
Facebook. They're not there. It's the
Hmm.
same reason that you don't see Bentley commercials and Rolls-Royce commercials on TV,
Hmm.
because the people that drive those things aren't sitting home watching TV.
Hmm.
And you have to know that about this person.
Hmm.
So if you are treating the Medicare, Medicaid type, those people are sitting at home during the day watching TV. It makes
Hmm.
sense for you to put information, your marketing material in front of them during those times.
Hmm.
But if we don't understand who it is that we really want to treat, who is our
Hmm.
A player in the game? If you had one patient that you could duplicate and see over and over and over and over and over and over again, who would
Hmm.
they be? And they
Hmm.
brought you so much joy, who would they be? Let's talk to them.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got to be willing to dig it and then dig for it. And then once you get it, you got to be patient
Right.
because back to the people don't change their minds overnight. Only a subset of them are actually looking for what you do at the moment they find you.
Right. Yeah.
So it takes time,
If you're not given 90 to 120 days right off the bat, then there's no point.
minimum, minimum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't invest in it.
So that's good, bad marketing. What about good versus bad sales practices you see?
Oh yeah, good bad sales practice. So bad sales is, and this is normally what we get, right? We associate bad sales to like the 1980s sleazy car salesman type,
Yeah.
right? Just wants to push anything and everything on me.
Hmm.
In healthcare, that looks and feels a lot like um, selling ancillary products to patients that don't need them,
Hmm.
right? So, hey, you should buy this brace from us. Well, I can go to the CVS pharmacy and buy the same one for a fraction of the cost,
Hmm.
right? But you tripled the cost because you're going to bill it to my insurance and try to
Hmm.
make more money off of it. Like that's sleazy sales to me, right?
Hmm.
Um, so uh, sales is a service, right? You
Hmm.
should be serving people. You should be telling somebody that, hey, we have a system, we have a product, we have a service that you can invest in that will help you go from this point to this point.
Hmm.
Does that interest you?
Hmm.
And a lot of people will play the ethical game with me. They're like, oh, it's not ethical to sell to patients. And I'm like, really? So if you had a product or a service that that your patients could use and it would benefit them, you think it's unethical to sell it to them? Because to me, that sounds unethical to not sell it to them. If
Or you're
you
just
know,
leaving it for them to figure it out themselves. So,
right, right,
you
or
know,
you just put it in a glass case in your lobby and let it collect dust and never talk about it. Just hope that people see it and go, "What's that?"
I need that. Yeah.
Right. You have to actually talk to them about it. And we used to
Yeah.
put questionnaires out in our lobby because we did some ancillary Medi-Spa stuff. Um, but it was higher level. So we did hair loss, we did P shot, no shot. If you're familiar with those are PRP shots that go into your private areas to help with sexual dysfunction.
Okay.
We did vampire facials, so we did higher end facial treatments and skin treatments. And we did Botox there. We did Botox for headaches too. So we had a lot of stuff
Yeah.
in my lobby where my TV was. I was not showing HGTV and CNN. If you're doing that, stop doing it.
Yeah.
Put together a PowerPoint or something that runs in your lobby that shows these things. It has
Hmm.
pictures of people, their results, testimonials. Put bios of your staff. Let people get to
Hmm.
know you. Put checklists in our office.
Hmm.
Hey, here are some great things that if you don't like your skin, and you could do these little check mark boxes. Hey,
Hmm.
hand this to your medical assistant when you go back.
Yeah.
It's such a simple way to offer a service to help people that may or may not know you have it.
Yeah.
So if I am going to buy something, I might have a pretty good idea of what I want to buy,
Hmm.
but I need somebody to tell me why I should buy it, why I
Hmm.
need it, why I should buy it from them. And
Hmm.
if you are approaching the sales process with like this product or this particular procedure will benefit you in these ways,
Hmm.
and I'm not just blowing smoke up your skirt,
Yeah.
that's selling as a service, not just trying to pad my numbers.
Yeah. I've always viewed it as, let me just, I don't know, see if I can help you make an informed decision, whether it ends up choosing me or not. If you have
Mhm.
this problem, we are one way to solve it.
Right.
Here are the other ways. Here's the pros and cons. By the way, an option is to not do anything, right? So those are your, it's these three choices plus do
Mhm.
nothing. What would you like to do? And people just want to, they want to have some idea of what they're choosing. And
Right.
by the way, to go back to the, the if there's no insurance, they have to have a really good idea if they're going to drop 9,500 or 14,000 or whatever the treatment is, right? I mean, with insurance, it's like funny money. With private pay, it's real money. So you
Right.
just got to help people understand. Usually, uh, from what I've seen, when somebody says no to a provider about a treatment or a service, it's one of two reasons. One is they're not sure if they needed it, and two is they're not sure they trusted the person talking that they were talking
Right.
to.
Mhm.
And both can be solved by the same thing. Just help them make a good decision and do it in a
Right.
way where, you know what, in this case, we're actually not the best choice for you.
Yeah. Or
You know?
you get the thing, people resist sales too because they're like, oh, my patients are going to buy that. And I go, well, um, cost is never the actual argument.
Yeah.
Value or perceived value for what you're offering is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't believe in it, your patients aren't going to believe in it either.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they're not buying. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, let's say I wanted to go buy a new computer and I walk into the, I don't know if people go to the store anymore, but let's pretend we're going to Best Buy,
Yeah.
right? And I'm going to buy a computer and I walk in, the sales guy says, hey, what are you guys looking for? I need a new laptop, I need a new notebook. Okay, well, tell me the three things that you're going to use it for.
Mm-hmm.
And I say emailing, streaming Netflix, and just perusing web-based.
Mm-hmm.
He knows that he doesn't have to offer me a $10,000 notebook with
Yeah.
all the gigabytes and twats and all the things because I don't care about that,
Yeah.
right? Now, if he tries to sell me that and he tries to sell me all the features and benefits, that's not what I'm there for. People don't buy features and benefits of stuff.
No.
They
No.
buy a story behind it that connects them to it, right? They
Mm-hmm.
connect to the emotion. That's why people buy things.
Mm-hmm.
People want to be sold to. They want to spend money. They want
Mm-hmm.
to buy. Everything in this world is sales. But if I approach that same person and I say, I'm looking for this, he's like, well, let me show you this. And he takes me over to the most expensive thing and then starts lining out all of the megahertz and the RAM and the gigs and all the stuff. I'm going to be like, I don't care about any of that. You didn't ask me
Mm-hmm.
what I cared about. I'm here to buy a minivan. You are trying to sell me a Corvette. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you find out what people actually need and what they want, you can
Yeah.
then decide, do I have something legitimate that's going to help them
Yeah.
reach their goals, or am I just going to be here trying to sell features and benefits?
Yeah. The first question is, this is what I do when with a prospective client is, so what's on your mind?
Right.
Why are we talking? Tell me what's on your mind, and then we'll just kind of go from there. But yeah, and then best to stay on that topic.
Yeah.
You
It's the
know,
old Sandler selling method right there.
yeah, it's just, why are we talking? Am I a good fit for you or not?
Right.
Let's just get to it. Because I'd rather find out now than say yes when I'm really thinking no, and 6 months from now have the I told you so, which never goes well. And I've just lost a client, I've lost a recommendation, I've lost goodwill
Yeah.
for what,
And I think that a lot of people have had bad experience with the pushy salesperson, right?
Hmm.
Just keeps shoving it and shoving it in their face and shove it in their face. And you can curb that a lot by just simply saying, hey, look, I'm going to show you some stuff and we're going to make an upfront deal right here. We're going to make a little contract that
Hmm.
says you can either tell me to pound sand or you can tell me yes.
Hmm.
But we're going to agree that you're not going to tell me, let me think about it. Because if
Hmm.
you say that, that means I haven't done my job. So, if you're feeling, let me think about it, then I want you to ask me more questions so that I can best help you. And if
Hmm.
you're still not getting there, just tell me no. I said, but I don't want to be told, let me think about it, and then I have to chase you for the next 6 weeks. I don't want to get
Hmm.
into that. I don't think you're the type of person that would do that to me, but I don't want to get into that habit. So let's just make a deal up front that at the end of this presentation,
Hmm.
either tell me yes or no. If you have
Yeah.
to think about it, that means you have more questions and I want to answer them for you. You'll
Yeah.
be amazed at how quickly that earns people's trust because it means you're not going to just be pushy and try to sell to them. Just tell me
Hmm.
yes or no and tell me to go away or tell me you want more information. Either way, let's
Yeah.
get you the help.
Yeah. Yeah. And before we started recording, another marketing practice I wanted to ask you about was just like the budget and the spend, because we were starting to go off on that before we started to
Yeah.
record. So there is no absolute number, but when we talk about, spending money on marketing, spending time on marketing. I mean, I've said to people, look, time plus money is the budget, and there's no magic number. But if you're short on one, you got to compensate on the other. You just
Right.
do. And so how do you talk to folks about that? Like, go back to this conference you were at. Maybe that's a good example. I mean, take it wherever you like, but there's going to be some, time and money to roll out this new treatment, right?
Yeah. when you look at that, let's go back to what we talked about with the amount of commercials.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think you can spend a few $100 on marketing and compete with all of the commercials that are out there for time and space between people's ears, you're outside of your mind,
Mm-hmm.
right? What has to be specific is who we actually want to attract with this. So
Mm-hmm.
an example of a recent group that I worked with is they have a service that could be used in so many different places, from like soccer moms to veterans to high performing business people, athletes, all of it. But if I craft a marketing message that encompasses all of those people,
Yeah.
it's never going to land. I have
No.
to pick one group, and I have to find out metrically how many of those people are within a certain radius. Like if
Mm-hmm.
I come up with a certain um, dynamic of person, I have to then see if those people, based upon marketing data that's collected in the area, if there's a legitimate amount of those people close by.
Mm-hmm.
And if there are, then I'm going to run a campaign for those people in that immediate area. And if
Mm-hmm.
it does really, really well, I'll then take it and go, let's blast it out. Maybe we can get
Yeah.
people to fly in here
Yeah.
and see us because we're the people.
Mm-hmm.
But that costs money.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not willing to look at your marketing budget and spend, I'm going to tell you, people are going to like this. If you're not willing to spend 5 and 10 grand a month at a minimum to capture people's attention,
Mm-hmm.
you're you're just taking shots in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
You know? You're hoping your niece is good enough at social media to get you some patients. So I think we have to talk benchmarks in that world too.
Yeah, let's do it.
A lot of people say, oh well, you ask, well, what's the benchmark to know that marketing's working? Oh, more patients on the schedule. Okay, I get you more patients on the schedule. I can go kick people in the knee and have them come see you and hand them a
Mm-hmm.
business card. I don't think they're going to be happy with your
Mm-hmm.
marketing plan. So
Yep.
you actually need real metrics. You need real data that marketing individuals, such as you, Carl, are willing to explain to people. Like you
Mm-hmm.
have to sit down and say, this is what our marketing is doing. And then you
Mm-hmm.
compare that to the patients that are coming in and the revenue that's generating, and you decide if it's working,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if you're
Mm-hmm.
not willing to spend money to be seen,
And have some patience
right?
because the world doesn't turn overnight.
Yeah, 90 to
Yeah,
100 days minimum you have to invest. People say, well, I've invested in marketers before. Okay, well, what kind of marketers did you invest in?
I know.
Right? What was their reputation? Did you try to take a $1,200 marketing scheme because you thought it would help you because you're trying to cut corners,
Yeah.
because you value more money in your pocket, right?
Or were they
It
just a loud megaphone with a bunch of gibberish going through it?
right.
Could
The
be a lot of
message,
reasons.
yeah, the message is super important when it comes to
Yeah.
marketing, right? It's always the message first, and then
Mm-hmm.
it's the medium after that, message and then medium.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, but if you're not willing to spend that money, then I don't want to hear complaints about how my business isn't growing. I tell people that all the time. I'm like, I don't care. Like I've
Yeah.
done told you, I have 2, 3, 4 marketing agencies that I can connect you with. You're
Mm-hmm.
now one of those. I can connect you with these people, and you
Mm-hmm.
can have legitimate conversations with them.
Mm-hmm.
They are good at what they do. They will show you numbers. Oh yeah, but I can't afford 6 grand a month.
Then save it because yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's always funny to me that the first thing that people want to skimp on in business is marketing. We're not
Why
doing well.
is that?
Cut marketing
It's
costs.
just not understood. I love marketing, but I'm not a fan of my industry because as we speak, there's a bunch of
Yeah.
people out there with a pulse and not much else, just making silly promises. But there's good ones too. And yet you're right. Marketing's always it's the last to start and the first to go. I get people, I just opened up now. I need marketing. I'm like, actually, you needed it a while ago.
Yeah.
And if you're asking me to go faster now, I can't make time go faster, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. I think two people, people want to hire salespeople off the bat, but no marketing. Um,
Hmm.
I believe you need to fix your sales processes before you invest more money in your marketing for sure.
Hmm.
Because one of the things that I see is like, hey, and oh, this drives me nuts. If you're a healthcare provider that owns a business and you're investing in we can get you 30 patients in 30 days or your money back, stop.
Yeah.
Stop doing that.
Yeah.
That is a cookie cutter situation. That is not a great marketing company.
Yeah.
That is a company who is selling a
Who
repetitive.
themselves have figured out no other way to try to differentiate themselves.
Right. And
Right.
so they're just 60 and 60 days, 90 and 45 days, but they're just using a cookie cutter system that use on everybody else to try to drive leads. And half of those leads aren't quality leads.
Hmm.
And then if they do produce an influx of calls, but your call center can't handle them or close them, then you get mad at the marketer and say marketing doesn't work.
Hmm.
No, one, you picked the wrong marketer, and two, you didn't instruct your staff on how to close people when they call.
Yeah.
Fix your sales process first before you invest proper money in marketing, and you'll see your ROI shoot through the ceiling.
Yeah. We had a client like that. It was they wanted to drive leads through paid ads for competitive practices. And then the phone calls started coming, but they never told the front desk. So, hi, this is, I'll pick orthodontics. It wasn't. Hi, I'm looking for Brown Orthodontics. Sorry, this is Smith Orthodontics. And they would hang up. And so we were listening to the calls. We're like, you got to hang on. And then, they got sheepish and they just backed away from the whole thing. But it's like, oh, and then we want to spend more money on this. Like, I don't think you do because
Right.
they're messing them up. So
Yeah.
yeah, totally a point.
Yeah.
Really, really cool conversation, Daniel. There's a couple of wrap-up questions I ask every guest.
Sure.
We could go on to marketing people talking. My God, we could
Yeah. We'd
could
be here
melt
all
the
night.
mic. We could melt the microphones, but just to keep it sort of more bite-sizey in size. Is there anything you think I should have asked you? I just didn't think to ask you.
Oh gosh, I don't think so. I think we got pretty deep on that. I think we got some significant stuff. I hope that everybody, can kind of pick up and understand what we're saying. And it's very easy to get super technical when you
Yeah,
talk business aspects. But no, I think we covered some really good information for sure.
yeah, me too, me too. And the other question I ask is, so we've caught a listener's attention, and they're like, you know what, this guy's right. I've been, I need to change. Where do I start though? I mean, I don't, how do I change? Sometimes people get really enthusiastic about starting something new, but they just have no idea where to start. Where would you tell
Yeah,
such a person to start?
I would say start with your brand. I would start there. Find
Mm.
somebody like myself or even like you, Carl, who
Mhm.
can who can work on your brand message. I love the branding conversation. I feel like branding is the foundation of
It's so
every
much fun
business,
because
and
once you
it is
find it,
so
you're like, oh, there it is.
yeah, it's
You
great.
know?
So start with that. Have somebody pick your branding apart, right? So I'll use a quick analogy here. If you've ever stayed at a Holiday Inn and an Express versus a Ritz-Carlton,
Hmm.
right? Ritz-Carlton, it doesn't matter if you stay at the Ritz, you're in Chicago, right, Carl?
Yeah.
And so if you stay at the Ritz in Chicago, or if you stay at the one here where I'm at in Florida, or the one in Dubai, you're getting the same
Hmm.
experience no matter where it is
Hmm.
because they have a brand promise.
Hmm.
Holiday Inn Express, however, you may have stayed at 17 different ones of those, and the experience is always different
Hmm.
because that's a brand name, not a brand promise.
Right.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
So you want to find somebody like the two of us on this podcast to really pull apart your brand essence and develop
Hmm.
a real brand promise that you can then use as a filter for everything for your business.
Hmm.
And once you have that, you construct the best marketing message and find the best medium to get that message out there.
Yeah.
So start with your branding. It's not your logo, it's not your credentials, it's not your colors. Those optics are part of it for sure, but a brand is what you stand for. A
Yeah.
brand is, and better yet, there's a book called Zag. I forget the author right now, but he says that your brand is what other people say about you, not what you say about you.
Yeah. I've said that. Like you will be positioned. You can do it yourself, or you can have the market do it. And if the market does it for you, I promise you, it's not going to go very
Screwed.
well. You're screwed. Exactly. You said it much better. Yeah. And you said a lot about the message, and you just made the point. Put the message aside for a second. First, what is this thing that you have? Then we'll figure out how to say it. That's what the map. What is this thing you have that's different and valuable from the ocean of competition? That even though if
Yeah.
you don't really, but those who call themselves what you call yourself, what's your secret sauce?
Yeah, that's
You
it.
know?
Sell me the sizzle, right? Nobody gets excited over fajitas that come to your table that aren't sizzling, right? If
Right.
somebody brings you a plate of fajitas, you're like, oh. But if it's coming out there and it's hot and it's bubbling, you're excited.
Hmm.
Sell people the sizzle, not the steak, right? Sell them the sizzle. People don't buy car insurance to protect their car, right? They have car insurance because in the event of an emergency, their family and their vehicle is taken care of.
Hmm.
It's the deeper essence that you provide there, and let's
Hmm.
talk about
Yeah, totally agree. Cool. This has been great, Daniel. Thank you. I love talking marketing and
it.
sales.
Yeah,
I try not to do it too much on Practice Care only because we focus on the business side and it's much more,
yeah,
if I were left to my own devices, it'd be a very marketing and sales heavy show. So, but it's good to have this every once in a while. So I really
yeah.
appreciate it.
No, I agree. Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. You gave some contact information for you, and we're going to get that into the show notes for your episode so that
Sure.
anybody who wants to get a hold of you, now they have another way to do so. A couple of points before we close out today. first, if you're someone like Daniel or I, and you want to help private practice owners stay private, or if you're a private practice owner yourself and you've got some wisdom on the business side of private practice you think your colleagues would benefit from, please, either way, we want you to come on PracticeCare and tell the world about it. In the show notes for Daniel's episode, every episode, there's a link, a couple of clicks. It's easy. Tell us what's on your mind so we can get you scheduled ASAP. And finally, search PracticeCare, one word. You'll find us. We're everywhere as a podcast. We have a new episode every week. And really, the easiest way to stay up to date is if you subscribe. That way, you'll get notified. So please do that today. Thanks so much. And until next time.